there's a deep connection, right, between how the money moves, where the money moves, and what we're doing, at a very macro historical scale. Let me ask, so this ability then to print fiat, to have a legal monopoly on fiat, then gives you asymmetric leverage to naked sell these assets as you're describing. And, in theory, you could just do that all the way to zero, right? You could suppress the price all the way to zero. But it runs into, I guess, the counterforce to that is the actual demand for physical delivery. Or if there are investors in the market and they think, this thing feels cheap, maybe something's going on here. I'm just going to demand to take physical delivery. But with gold, there's a big cost to that, right? It's slower, it's more cumbersome, it's more expensive to secure, et cetera, et cetera. So to look at Bitcoin through that lens, is it basically just taking the cost and risk of taking physical delivery, like the lower that is, the less suppressible the asset is? Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes. And and so imagine if they make it illegal to possess physical Bitcoin or to withdraw Bitcoins from an exchange, and make it all paper Bitcoin. That would open the doors to great manipulation. That should be avoided at all time, because then it would be like gold. Gold has this intrinsic property that it is not easily collectible, because it's heavy. The transport is very expensive, and even it's not only the transport; it's also the vaults are expensive, and it has to be insured. Insurance, so it's about, I guess, 1% per year. It's the cost of gold having in a vault, even without the transportation. So gold has this very intrinsic thing where you'd rather have the paper gold than the physical gold. But Bitcoin doesn't have that disadvantage that gold has. Delivery is easy, delivery is fast, delivery is cheap, and holding it is so superior to holding gold. But once it is illegal or made impossible to withdraw gold, then that opens the door to manipulation, because then it's basically a fiat world, and it's very comparable to 1971, where Nixon basically said, well, from now on you cannot withdraw the gold anymore. So France, you brought all the gold after the World War, thank you, but you can't have it back. You'll have to take our fiat dollars, which they weren't happy with. But that's it. So if the exchanges are going to do that, well, of course that would lead to people that have physical Bitcoin not putting it on exchanges anymore. So everybody that has Bitcoin on exchanges loses the right to withdraw in physical Bitcoin and is in a paper world. And that's why it's a very, very good thing to always, not your coins, not your Bitcoin, or what is the saying?
Not your keys, not your cheese, not your keys, not your coin.
Yeah, and there's a very fundamental truth in that, and maybe more so than most people realize. But if once that aspect of Bitcoin is lost, then Bitcoin is lost, in my view. So I personally use exchanges only for selling and buying, but not for custody, for keeping the Bitcoin. No, I think that's very, very dangerous. But but right now that makes Bitcoin manipulation very hard versus gold manipulation, which is very easy for states.
Yeah, I mean, to your earlier point too, it's so much more economically intelligent to use Bitcoin, right? It's 24/7, settle within an hour, bearer instrument, final settlement, no bullshit, no questions. Like, it's basically the most, I've described this to people too, the fact that the bank can seize your money, or that you can't access it on weekends, or that if you try to send a wire of a certain size, you get asked questions. All of these are limitations and constrictions on your property rights in money.
Yes.
Right? Like to have an actual property right is like you own the thing outright. You can do whatever you please with it whenever you want.
Exactly.
So it seems somewhat intuitive once you understand Bitcoin that people are going to opt for this monetary system where they have a very strong property right versus the fiat system where you have almost none, really. I mean, you get property rights in your USD, but it's at the leisure of all these intermediaries, the state, there's a lot of frictions to sending it internationally, as you just described. So that's really interesting. So, all right.
Yeah. So it's basically a bearer instrument against an IOU,
Mm-hmm.
and Bitcoin being the ultimate bearer instrument, and fiat being just US dollar just an IOU, and it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I reflect here on Szabo's description of money as a trust minimized, medium of exchange. So it's like whichever money enables you to trust the least amount of people is the one people will opt for.
Yeah. And I'm personally, I guess you have to learn that as a person and actually feel it by having Bitcoin and fiat, and then being afraid of losing the fiat because your bank is going to do funny stuff, or your government, which is, you hear that a lot. By the way, I hear that a lot. So and getting to know Bitcoin and see how it works and how easy it is and how secure it is. So I'm personally at the point that I'd rather have Bitcoin for services or deals than fiat, because and you hear that with a lot of Bitcoiners. For example, the ones, I don't have a newsletter, but suppose you have a newsletter, all the hassling, all the stuff and harassment of banks with your cash flows. It's horrible. It's a horrible experience. And I guess every business has that. Maybe it's worse in Europe than the US, though, because it's in Europe, there's a lot of businesses closed down by the US because alleged contacts with Iran or some person or whatever. And they just freeze your bank account or close your connection with the SWIFT. So it's you're done. Fairly big companies as well. So it's I guess a thing that's more people outside the US are more aware of than inside the US. I guess that doesn't happen too much in the US.